Welcome. Let's see if this is working. We already have technical difficulties. Yay! It's only January. So that means it's going to be a great year, right? When we start off on the right foot. Yay! So let me check real quick. Let's see if we're actually live somewhere because everything got reset today. Yay! We're live. Welcome. Welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. We're going to talk about a fun topic today. We're going to talk about hiring and delegating because, well, last year for me was a big year and I hired more people than ever and made more money in my business than ever. And those two things are actually connected. And so we're going to talk about that today. But before we go very far, I want to say, for those of you that are here, you are change agents and advocates and people who want to make better policy. You may be working on making better policies for yourself, making better policies for your own choices in your own life. Maybe that looks like boundaries or setting up limits or setting up lots of different words. Or you're going to be talking about community or like your state, your workplace policies. And so we talk about all of those because you have to be a healthy human if you're going to make other people healthy. And so we're going to talk about a lot more about that. And this past month, we've been talking more about our own selves and about how we become more healthy. And what do we do with that? And so we've been setting goals, all of those different types of things. And so we're going to talk today, though, about, like I said, delegation, because delegation is a really key piece to moving the next ball forward. So if you've got some big goals for 2023, I know I do. Delegation is the way. But I want to give a special thank you to Tanya and Margie for always watching the replays. And if you're with us today, say hello in the chat. You might not be able to get into the Zoom link because that was the technical difficulty. Everything got reset as a part of the new year, I guess. And so you may not be able to get in today. The link may not work. And so just join us here on Facebook Live. And we apologize. We'll get that straightened out for you for next week. So if you can't get in the back, sorry about that, but thanks. And I'm so glad you're here. It looks like Mona's with us and she's talking about freedom. Whoa. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here. And so if you are excited, last week we talked about the Freedom Compass. And I don't know how many of you guys actually got to pay attention to that, but what you were working on, if you wanted that, I had a couple people ask me for that. It's not my tool, it's Michael Hyatt's tool. But basically you walk through and you talk about how the different things in your life that you have to do, and you put them in the different zones. And we talked about that last week, about how some things are just drudgery. You just do them because you have to make the day go by, but it's not stuff that you love to do. Or some things make you distracted, and some things you have to do you're just not interested in. And in all of those cases, those things are really true. And those things can really keep you from doing the work that only you can do, your gifts, your zone of genius. And so the Freedom Compass we talked about last week was all about how to delegate some of that stuff. So today just banks on top of that. And if you're in our group, I want to say hi to Holly and I want to say hi to Mona. I can see you both in the live. Thanks so much for joining us. And if you're here, the best way you can say thank you is to invite your friends. If you know other people that need to either get healthy themselves or they need to get healthy with their community or with their school board or with their state, bring them on in. We talk about all of that stuff. So last week we talked about that tool and we talked about the fact that I had been using this tool for a very long time. We've been looking at the Freedom Compass and I walked through, if you didn't get a chance to go back and watch it, I recommend that you do. I've been using that tool since middle of 2019 that I could find, and I keep it as part of my planner, and I can see the things that are part of the stuff that is not my gift. Technology is not my gift. Looking at data is not my gift. There's just a lot of pieces. And the very first thing that was never my gift was QuickBooks. And so what you can do in that space, when you get stuff that drives you crazy, you can automate it, you can delegate it, or you can delete it. And so with QuickBooks, it got deleted. We upgraded to a different type of accounting software that makes more sense. I reconciled it this morning as an example, easy breezy. I actually get it. And I had to get rid of QuickBooks because I did not think like that. And so there's sometimes we get stuck with projects and things that we just need to change. But other times you need to bring people into your universe that you can delegate to. Now, sometimes you may be thinking off the top, that means you have to have money to pay them. Not necessarily. Sometimes I have interns. The past several years at the State House, I used an intern to help me with different groups that I was working for. And they did all of the tracking of the bills. Now, I can track bills, but it's pretty time consuming and pretty tedious, and it's not something that I love to do. So it was always on my list of stuff I didn't really like. So I brought in an intern to help. Now, I could partner with schools that could get them paid. Sometimes they had paid opportunities where they got paid just to do work for me, and all I had to do is supervise and help. So when you're thinking about delegation, it's not always about payment that you have to pay people. Sometimes they just need a place for interns to work, and they'll pay them if you're willing to help them. And so you've got to think about that. So when I was looking at that, one of the things, and the reason going back to QuickBooks, we'd gotten audited back in 2011, and I was actually an elected official. It's pretty funny. The audit had my husband as a pastor at the time and me as a legislator, and it said I didn't pay my taxes. Really? When he's a pastor and I'm a legislator, not paying my taxes. Now, I hear some people don't pay their taxes, but that's not me. And so I had paid my taxes, but they didn't have my account somehow. I don't know, something happened. And so it went on, and they decided to call me all the time. The state was calling me all the time. Federal government was calling me all the time, said we owed them money. I ended up getting a congressman involved. No joke. Congressman's office to actually make some calls so I could get like a case ID number to get that thing fixed. And of course, they got an ID real fast, and all of a sudden it came to an end. And you know what? They owed me money. Oh, but the statute of limitations had passed, so they didn't have to pay me. That was the very first hire I ever made, was a CPA. And I've had a CPA now for over 10 different years because I don't think like that. So QuickBooks is a part of my problem, but CPA and all of that kind of stuff and accounting, and I don't want to be audited. I want to pay what I'm supposed to pay. I don't really want to pay extra, and I don't want to get in trouble for it. So I had to hire somebody pretty quick to start over with my taxes, because with our business, we'd gotten audited for being foster parents. You realize that's rude too. They decide that the money that you get paid for being a foster parent doesn't actually count or something. It does too. So you got audited a few times. And so CPA became, for a long time, that was my only hire. I was a solopreneur. I had a CPA that just helped get with my back, got my back around tax time so we didn't get in trouble. So then I started getting contracts. And this contract work would be for like building systems, building behavioral health things, and fixing problems in people. As a provider for people, or as a state, I would get jobs to come and help them fix things. I love fixing things. And the more complicated it is in the behavioral health space, the more fun I think that is, which I know it's crazy. And so I really enjoy it. But I needed subject matter experts to join me because I couldn't do all the work by myself. So then I started contracting with people. And so I would contract for the subject matter expertise. I would bring on people maybe in behavioral health that had more of a substance abuse expertise. I brought on people when we did work up in North Dakota. I brought on people with a Native American background because there was a huge tribal population up there, and I wanted to make sure they were fairly represented in what we did. So bringing on people that could get into those closed door meetings and get behind the scenes was really important. So I did all of that. And then making sure that we had people that lived in that community. We brought on a contractor at the time who had family and friends because he lived in Western North Dakota when he was growing up. And so he knew the state and knew the people. And he has a brother that's a district judge, as an example. And so we built a team with strategic people on the team so that they could be helpful and be able to bring us information. So when we got that far, then we started figuring out, hey, I need some administrative help. So when you start bringing on contracts or projects or whatever it is you're doing in life, you probably have some things you need to delegate to other people. And this is where I want you to think about a little bit of math. If you've worked for any period of time, you know how much your hour is worth. At least you should. If you are like a therapist or a person in that field, you have a billable hour. If you are a person that's a contractor or a consultant, you should have a billable hour. You should know what your daily rate is if you're doing other work. You should know what your session rates are if you're a lobbyist. You should have a rate of money that your time is worth. And I can guarantee that there are people out there that love to do administration and the stuff that is distracting to you or not interesting to you or you just hate, that will do it for a lot less than your hourly rate. And as soon as that sinks into your brain, your life will change forever. Because yes, you have to pay people to help you and delegate, but you're paying them a fifth, a fourth, even half of what your hour is. Go work another hour and then pay them. I just had this conversation with a lady who's a lawyer who was talking about using a personal trainer. And she said, I wish the personal trainer was a little less expensive so I could come more often. Scratching my head, she's a lawyer. She works 1 hour and probably can pay for 3, 4 personal trainer sessions. So it's all about the math. You're paying a personal trainer, yes, for their expertise at what level, and then what do you get paid? As a lawyer, I'm telling you, she gets paid 3 and 4 times an hour more than a personal trainer. So when you start thinking about that, is it really worth your time then to do all of the stuff yourself? How much money are you wasting doing it yourself? How much? Because it's a lot and you don't get the time back. Time is the one resource that is limited. You don't know how much you're going to have and you can't get more. Unlike money, you can make more money, but you can't make more time. And I know we know that, but as you come into the new year, we really need to think that through because you can't make more time. Now, I'm going to run briefly through this topic, the next one of how I went about hiring, because I was not very good at it and I hired really badly a few times. So there's actually people out there that can do this for you. Did you know that? And I was in a season where I was getting slammed and I had no choice. I needed an administrator fast and I needed somebody who could bring them on and help me do it. And they used a tool called the Kolbe A assessment, KOLBEA. And what that means is there's a score out there about how you do the work you do. It's about how you instinctively work. And for the first time ever, it's not a personality inventory, but it described how I work. And I'll explain to you how I work, because for any of you that know me, you'll think, yep, that's how she works. But first of all, I'm a fact finder by a long way, which means I strategize over simplifying. I can strategize all day long. The second one is follow through. I have a pretty good high follow through. So I get stuff done. I don't get stuff started and stop. I actually follow through. So you can either be adaptive or you can systematize. And I'm a person that systematizes, which makes sense. I work in systems. Then the next one is called quick start. And you're a person that either stabilizes things and keeps them structurally systematic, or you're an innovator. And I actually lean toward stabilizing. So I'm not a person that just flies by the seat of my pants and changes things quickly. I need to see the why and the how if something's going to change before I change it. And then the last one is implementer, where you either can envision the project or you're there to protect it. And so you can either see it in your head or you're somebody that needs that more hands-on. And I can 100% see things in my head all day. And that can get me in trouble. So for those of you that know me in the consultant world, this is how I work. And it makes sense. I create systems. I see systems as strategies. Strategies and systems go together for me. I see things through that line, and I don't like to change things just for the sake of change. And that's who I am. And the Kolbe A just nailed it. So when it came to hiring people, we wanted to define who those people work for and use a tool like that to help me find people that would blend and match in my team. And so when you hire people, then you need to know how they work so that you can say if that's how you need to work or not. I would not work well with somebody who's 100% innovator. Back to that concept where I talked about North Dakota, we brought in a consultant who was 1,000% innovator, man. That's all the dude did, but he didn't have any follow through. And that was very hard for me because he had a new idea every minute. Now, the dude is pretty successful because some of those ideas hit it out of the park, but somebody behind him has to implement it because it sure as heck isn't him because he's just on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. But that's how he works. That's how he is. You need people on your team like that to brainstorm on new ideas, but they're not going to be actually helpful to you at the end of the day when you're writing the final report, as an example, because they've moved on a long time ago to the next idea. So when you're thinking about hiring, you sometimes need to get some help about how to do that. So another one for myself is I need information to make decisions. I am not a person that just say, trust me. No, I didn't work that way when I was a politician. Ain't gonna work that way now. So trust me, no. Tell me the data, tell me the information, and let me make my own decision, right? And so I can get too far into data and then never make a decision at all. I can do that. Or I just need enough information to really see that it's justified. And going back to that idea of not just changing for change's sake. You see how that makes sense? So if you're going to think about delegating, these are the types of things that you want to think about. It's like, you just want to think about, okay, what are those tasks that were on your list that you want to get rid of? And then who might be the right person to help you out? They could be paid people because they're going to make potentially less than you do per hour and maybe something they love to do. And so it makes a lot of sense to bring them on your team because you can delegate to somebody, even if they made equal as you, if it's their 100% their gift. Wow, they're faster, they're better, it's better that way. So think about what do you need to do that. So to delegate, you got to figure out the things off your plate. Then you got to start thinking about the who that can help you. Remember the book, Who, Not How, who needs to help you. And then start thinking about who that could be to move successful. So if you're stuck in this and you're like, this sounds intriguing, but I need to think about who I could delegate to, put delegate in the chat. We'll set up a link for you for a quick call As you can tell, this is my thing. This is my jam. I love systems. I love connecting people and networking the right people to people, because that's how my brain works. And so you can use that. I'm offering it to you, no charge to you, nothing in return, but just I'm willing to help. I like to put the problems together to solve that. So if you want to delegate things and you don't know how to delegate, put delegate in the chat. I would love to hear that from you, because I'd love to help you in that space. Today, we're going to have several resources to share, so be sure to look for those. If you're watching the replay, put replay below. If you are interested in knowing more about this topic, hit delegate and we'll hook you up. Next week, we're going to talk about how and why you might want to get onto stages or in places where you can publicly speak to move your goals forward in 2023. And that will tie all together then the right people with how you hire, how you find those people. Stages, you can find everything you're looking for and then some. So we'll be back next week. Cannot wait to see you then.